días a todos.
Good morning to all of you. In the first place, I thank INCIBE for having counted on Borrmart to be here. We have 40 minutes to tackle this interesting panel on internationalization, which is overcoming barriers, and we will have the collaboration of many people, and we will know how to catch opportunities. And with this approach, we have started this second day. Maybe I will direct it to my LinkedIn page so that you can have a look at the brilliant careers of the panelists. But I think that what we have to focus on today is that they have decades of know-how. They are all founders of cybersecurity businesses in Spain, and they have all internationalized their companies. So I think they deserve to have the floor. I have here Daniel Solís, CEO of Blueliv. Then we have David Barroso, founder and CEO of CounterCraft. We have Paco Moral, CMO of Randed, and last but not least, I have here Miguel Rego, founder and CEO of iHackLabs. As you know, we are specialized in publications on cybersecurity. I represent the cybersecurity network today, but 5 years ago, we went to America, and we are actually expecting to publish a Latin America publication. And this is why I will ask them several questions with which I think I could answer, and I want them to tell me how they have overcome those barriers. In the first place, why and what for? This is the first question that I think is key. So why and what for? You have internationalized your companies. Daniel, you have the floor. Good morning to all of you. Well, I'm grateful because you have invited me. And it's true that all of my colleagues have suffered with me. We are Blueliv. We are a company, and we are the eyes of the companies on the internet. We study what the bodies do, basically, and we decided to create this company because we realized that security had to do one step further, and we needed more solutions from the companies, and this is why we thought that we could gather the information, process it, study how the bodies create their tools, and they cooperate, and then we will provide the client with the solution, which is information. And then you actually identify a niche, and then you have also some needs. Currently, I do think that we had a clear motivation, which was to face things that were impossible to tackle in the past. Because many people would say, this is impossible to do. And this was a motivation for us, because for us, it was an extra bonus to be able to overcome these difficulties. And this is our experience. Well, from my side, CounterCraft is a company created by 3 different people, people from the UK and 2 Spanish people. And we created this because we wanted to go to the next step. We were seeing that current products were not enough, and we had to be more active with the attackers. And this is why we're talking about active defense, which is crucial. And right from the start, we realized that it was important to be international. In this case, in San Sebastian or in Spain, was limiting us. And at the end of the day, we had many competitors, and you were talking about Israel before, or the US, and they actually are strong in the US, and when they have gained this experience and know how they come to Europe, so you don't have a strong market position, it will be difficult for us and for you to resist. So this is why we decided to become international, and we created a company in the UK. We started to work with the British market. We started also to work in the US market and also in Latin America. And right from the start, we started to grow international. It was a difficult trip, that goes without saying, because it's really cold outside, you know, that we know people in Spain, it's easy to talk to them, but when you go to Germany, France, the US or the UK, you don't know anybody, and sometimes you feel a bit alone along the way. But I think that we can go into detail later on, I think. Good morning. Thank you for all of you who are listening to us, and thank you for having invited me. Unlike my colleagues, unlike my panelists, we've known each other for decades, but what we did was a product company, and it's something quite complex in a European environment, and especially in Spain, especially in Madrid and in southern Spain. The reality that you face when you start up an initiative or a startup is that you're motivated, you're willing to do things, you have a long way to go, and you think you will do interesting things, but actually you do not know what you will find along the way. And in the technology environment, we realized that it's extremely cold outside, because it's an environment in which Americans and Israelis are taking the lead, and we're not able to keep up. And the reality is that going abroad is not an option. It's the only thing you can do from a technology business point of view. It's the only option you have left, because you're in an international market. Because if you want to only grow in a European or Spanish market, it will be really difficult. You have to validate the ideas, the technology, and we will go into detail afterwards. But you also have to go to other markets, because the markets in which we are, as my colleague was saying, is difficult. This market is not a especially positive market when it comes to technology and cybersecurity. Miguel, good morning to all of you. In the case of iHackLabs, it was founded in the UK by Carlos y Diana, and then we created the company in Spain, so it became international, and I think this is a good advantage, or at least this is a reality. And what this company does is to design what's called the server rent platforms, where we have IT and OT. We replicate to threats, and we basically use this to identify talent on cybersecurity and also training and talent. And this company is providing these services on SaaS, on cloud. Our market is also online and global, of course. And this is why we have expanded, or we're trying to develop and to expand, not only in the UK, but also in Latin America. We chose Latin America, and we did not do this by chance, because of course we have culture there, we're close to them, but in Latin America currently we are approving some strategies on cybersecurity and also on capacity development and capacity leading. And this is an interesting topic for us. The reasons, hence, are to extend the market for internationalization. We will talk about the many difficulties, because it's extremely cold outside. We will talk about the different cycles, the investments, and also, and I think that my colleagues agree, and this is when you become international and you create value in different regions, you have more value. And not only from quantitative point of view, but also from a quality point of view, because you will always feel it. And this would be, for me, a second important reason to become international. As you can see, panelists have different international realities. They have been working for more or less time. We have product companies, service companies, and this is why I'm going to ask them to go a little bit into detail in the specific experience in their internationalization, to provide keys for those companies that are here today, maybe startups that are thinking, oh, I want to also do that.
De vista es bastante, digamos que obtuvimos una cura de realidad importante.
Our viewpoint is quite realistic because, as my colleague say, if you do not become international, you cannot not do anything. It's not that you have to go abroad, it's that it's the only option you have. We suffered the aftermath of the crisis. You create a company, and we also always talk about Spanish industries, but it's complicated because it was really difficult for us, not because the product was not good. No, we had actually 85% of our turnover abroad. We are a solid company. 50% of the staff is foreigner. But anyway, I will go back to this later on. As my colleagues were saying, you have to go abroad. Because if you go there, how do you do this? You don't have a powerful marketing, you don't have powerful tools, so you have a good idea, and it's like an egg, but then you discover that it was not an egg, it was potato. So, jokes aside, you have to validate this tool to be able to sell it to clients that believe in your capacities, and then you have to go abroad and to sell it as well. Once you validate in your target regions, and it's really complicated to select those regions or countries because the fact of validating a market is complicated, and you have to look for companions of trip. I'm talking about Canada. We also provide SaaS solutions, and the deployment was quite easy, and we looked for channels that were the security management systems. And, for example, we were helped by companies such as Telefónica, among others. And once you have this, you have to expand and overcome the difficulties. You have also to convince the vendors. And you have a new mission, and it's complicated because many people don't know what you're giving them. For example, in this case, now you can see it, but maybe back at the times I was saying, okay, this firewall is not working. And it's true that you make many mistakes, but your competition, and sometimes they have more investment, are quicker than you. So I would highlight 2 points here. One, how you see the market, because you have to choose really well the regions, and we decided to focus on Europe, and we did really well. Actually, we're also in Asia and in Latin America, and we are planning to go to the US. But we didn't go right from the start to the US because we had many competitors, and then you have to choose who your colleagues are. Well, I completely agree with what Daniel says, and I think that for the US, for Spanish companies, it's complicated because, as Daniel is saying, everything is really expensive in the US, and if you want to actually set up a business, you have to invest 300,000. Well, it's a lot of money, the salaries are quite high, maybe you're asked 50, 60 or even $100,000, so it's complicated. But what's the problem? Well, when you want to go abroad, you're going to talk with analysts that will give us insight and information. But when you talk to them, they tell you, if you don't have US clients, we will not support you because you're not relevant. But then it's true that they say that they have European companies, but in good reports, it's true that you do not go to the US if you don't have US clients. So you have to be in the US, but in order for you to be in the US, you have to have clients. So I'm seeing here two different speeds, the American one and the European one. In Europe, we know that the investment rounds are much smaller compared to the US. So it's another way of thinking. Here you would say, okay, I'm going to grant this company 1 million, 2 million euros to see if it works. And in the US, they say, no, I'm going to give them 10 million, 15 million, and because I trust this company, because otherwise they will not have enough money to be visible in the market. So what happens is that life goes on, and if we have these two different visions, we have to compete, and we have people that have many resources in the US that can spend money on analysts, marketing, commercial staff, whereas European companies, we're going step by step because we don't have this amount of money. So it's like going with a supercar and a bad car. And at the end of the day, the US have this competitive advantage, because if you have relations there, then you're well perceived and you can get more investment, and you could get the money that they get. But it is not easy for Spanish companies to move in leaps and bounds. Well, going into detail to what my colleagues have mentioned, I'm going to start this part by the conclusion. When I tell a story like this, I'm not going to say that we were born in Spain. I'm not going to say that it is not a good region, but my conclusion is that company could not be Spanish because we created a disruptive technology. But the way that we followed was not disruptive, so you do something innovative and disruptive, and maybe we will be the second generation of cybersecurity companies, and what we haven't done is to break those classical ways, those investment rounds, ventures that exclude us from, for example, the Israeli or American world. This is, if you cannot compare to them in the finance rounds, and if they do not understand what you're doing, we cannot compete with them because we don't have a chance. So we have to be extremely disruptive also in the way you move and also in what you do. And I'm sure that in the oncoming adventures that I will live and experience, well, I hope I will do many of them. But the reality is that in the oncoming adventures I will experience, company could do some things in Spain, but it will not be Spanish, it will be American, because you know what you're doing if you're American. And the other reality is that in this very same point, there is a business gap. Maybe some of you are from venture or finance, but there's something we're not doing. Israel is doing this, and startups do not have to be there for decades. Americans are teaching this. You have to validate this idea, and this does not mean to have 5 or 10 years of sales. No, maybe you validate this idea, you have a handful of clients, and then you sell this idea, because what you're doing is to end up this company, and this is a business opportunity that we do not find here, and you know this because you've been working here, and we are in an environment in which we cannot compete, because we cannot compare the situation of Europe and America, and we have not a big European company, and you have competitors that are extremely powerful. And how do you do this? Well, by being somewhere else and by doing rules in another way. I completely agree with what has been said. I would add something different now. I know it's obvious, but it's still important, because when you become international and you said that it's a necessity, it's a need, you don't have a choice, and it's actually a strategy that you have to follow, and you have to plan in advance what you have to do, because at the end of the day, it's an investment. If you think that you will go abroad with your products and services, and you go to a foreign country and people will buy your products and service, you're completely wrong. And this is important because when you're talking about investments, you have to know that companies have to spend, they have to invest on these markets. And it's complicated. You will have a return, of course, but depending on the features of the market, because the Anglo-Saxon world or the Latin American world is not the same thing, and the decision-making processes will be different depending on several factors, because markets are different. So it is important to plan this in advance and also to be persistent, because things will evolve, but we have to invest. As for investments, I would link it to the commercial strategy or openness to the market, as my colleagues have mentioned. For example, when we talk about the different channels, and in our case, due to the services that we provide, it's true that this model didn't fit us. We are evolving to a partnership model, and it's less automatic and it's more complex. And I don't know if you agree, but if you sell it through different channels, everything is more automatic, and it's a machine actually. You do it automatically, if you allow me this expression. But on the other hand, when you work on a strategy partnership, you have these soft aspects that become more relevant, because not all of the partners will respond with the same motivation. They will not be there for you at the same level. And we learn from this, and we have to bear in mind what the likely mistakes are, because I think that in order for us to build an international network, maybe we will not be successful right from the start with the different partners, because they will not be involved at the same level. So you have to position your products or services carefully. All in all, and this is my conclusion, you have to insist. You will open up a market, you will make a decision by the board, you have a solid business plan, and you have to say, okay, these are the sales objective for this and this market, and you have to create a marketing plan. You have to reduce the travel expenses. This actually might not look important, but for a startup it is, because it's quite complex. And we have to focus on the partner management. Well, yes, I think that Miguel tackled on some interesting issues. And I'd like to talk about industry, because in the Spanish culture, even if we boast about our productivity, it's true that it's not always the case. We have people from different companies that create industry, yes, but not all of them. And what does that mean? Well, you go abroad and you see that in France, there is an important French company, and the French companies, I'm talking about multinationals, are solid. But the French companies must know the products, because currently we were not invited to bid specifications. And in this company, for example, I'm talking about the private market. And we are the European leader on trust intelligence. We have 142 clients, top clients, clients in different countries. We have been granted awards, we have cool vendors, and we have an excellent career. But actually, in Spain, I'm not taking into consideration, and when I see young people, I'm thinking, what could they expect? Because clients do not buy even for 12,000 or 15,000 euros. We all want to have a Mercedes or a Ferrari, but nobody buys low cars. So Americans tell us, I don't understand how you can have the best ecosystem on cybersecurity in the world, and I don't understand how you're better positioned worldwide. Because we do have connections, but it's a complex market. Yes, I think that we have to close up this topic. We have here interesting keys. We have to carefully choose where we will operate. We have to choose who our colleagues are. And I think another topic is funding. Another interesting key is maybe to be international right from the start, and also everything that's related to planning and to be persistent and to not give up. And I think we all agree on the importance of the support from institutions and government so that our companies become international. And sometimes I think they do not keep up to the expectations. I'm going to ask you to tackle those issues and to overcome these barriers so that our panelists tell us the moments of difficulties and the hardest moments of your international experience. Well, you have to talk because I have talked for long. Well, the most difficult part for us, from our experience, at an international level, was to lose an opportunity in the right moment, in the last moment, because we were hand in hand with an Israeli business, could be from any other country, of course, but when we talked to them, then they chose another Israeli company, an Israeli idea. And this was a shock for us, because it was a big opportunity in the UK, and we were counting on this. It was December, it was the fourth quarter of the year, and it was painful for us in a way, because on the one hand, yes, you can do this. Is it moral? Well, maybe not, but this is the world, that's life, and you have to know who your partner is. And I think this was for us especially a psychological shock, because this is the hardest part for us. You think that the world is fine, and you find yourself in a hostile entourage. I'm going to tell you what are the misleading careers and the hardest moments that we have experienced, because you know that you have competitive disadvantage depending on where you are from, and this disadvantage is huge. Maybe you're not aware of this when you are created, or when you create this company with a lot of will, and you think that you're giving a lot to society, and you know there's a gap, but you're trying to overcome it. But you realize that the gap increases second by second, and you know that you will never recover this gap, because you were born in a specific place, and you are living with this day by day. Maybe at the beginning you're not aware of this, but year after year you are more and more aware of this, and this is only my insight. I'm not going to go into detail because there are many things at stake. Well, I'm going to present a concrete case And I'm going to present a strategic vision. We have to work with a big partner. We are small, and we worked with a big partner for 1 year, and we worked for an international organism, and once this proposal was ready after 1 year, we had this big company that did some bid specifications, and they cancelled it 2 days before the official offer. And this is a reality. This happened to me, and it was quite painful, I have to say, and I don't know how you can solve it. Maybe you have to be as big as the other company.
And now, not just to talk about myself, Spain, I would say, surprisingly enough or not, is on the top 7 of the security index in terms of maturity. The thing is, when you go to not Latin America, because we have a certain cultural connection and a certain degree of influence there, which we're not harnessing in a well-structured manner, and we're losing a key positioning. And other countries who shouldn't be there are beginning to be in Latin America. This will spark great debate. But going back to what I wanted to share with you, being on the top 7 worldwide doesn't really count at all internationally, because Spain's credibility, or Spanish business that's has a vertical integration that is performing very well, it doesn't really matter, because the Spanish brand is not valued in the world. We have a good brand as a tourism market and so on. But what about cybersecurity? If our national cybersecurity strategy states that entrepreneurs development is a strategic priority, and that, well, then public institutions should provide that branding so that Canada or the US don't look at us over their shoulders. So I think this is very frustrating, and I have some part of that guilt. Yes, I agree with you. I try to always look at the bright side. We have a lot of problems, yeah, but it's good to, if you fail, you have to fail quickly and cheap. I remember that I received intention letters from many big companies, and none of them contracted my services. But I always, as I said, I like to look at the bright side. We're learning. It's hard, but we're learning from this. I think Miguel is right. Spanish people have a capacity which is an advantage. We are very good in unstable situations. We are the masters of workarounds, and we should find value in that. Whenever I travel abroad, in Germany, we have great business in Germany. They really appreciate our approach in front of problems. They collapse whenever something's not in a procedure, when it's not written in black and white, and we're able to improvise, we're able to work our way around, and they love that. And then I would say that we smell of ham, of very high quality ham. We are a very expensive ham. When you travel abroad and you're with a local in the US, for example, and they hear that I'm the CEO and founder, they like it, but you need to be with a local, because otherwise they won't really listen to you. Let's give the audience the opportunity to pose any questions. If anybody would like to ask anything to our panelists. No?
Bueno, pues para cerrar muy rápido porque nos quedan... ¿Sí?
Okay. There is a question here. Probably the only English speaker around. Thank you very much for the talks. Let me stand up and you can see me. My name is Ulrich Salzachs. I'm from Belgium. Very interesting discussions that you had and experiences. Maybe you can also give some recommendations to the people here that are planning to go abroad. And I think we actually have many things to share also from other countries in Europe. Thank you.
¿Quién quiere?
I think that's a very good question. I don't know if we'll answer it in English or in Spanish. We can answer in English. I think the best advice we can give to people that plan to go abroad and try to export can be a product and service, not only in Europe, because, well, Daniel said that it's very important you need to act locally. I mean, because you go to Germany, you need to speak German. You go to France, you need to have like a French people working with you, because if not, it's really difficult to do business there. And also, I think we should share more between countries. I mean, for instance, in Europe, because the reality that we are suffering from the point of view of Spanish startups is the same that perhaps in Belgium some startups are suffering, because we have the same problems in Europe, and if we want to jump to the US, we are also finding bumping into the same problems every time. So I think one of the best advices I could give is you need to think about going to the States as soon as possible if you work in cyber. I think because going to the UK, going to Germany, France, Latin America, Asia, Singapore, Dubai, it's okay, but if you want to be, I guess, in the Champions League and you want to test your product against the competition, you need to be in the States, you need to be in the US. So sooner or later, you need to be there. So I think that's the best advice. Perhaps at the beginning, just visiting the country, going to the major trade fairs like RSA, Gartner, Security Summit in Washington. So there are like 3, 4, 5 Black Hat in Vegas. You need to attend them, talk to people, make friends, make connections, and then, if you have enough money, then do something bigger. But at least start from the beginning with something in the States.
Yeah, I do agree with David. From my point of view, I think that one of the things that you do need to do is that if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. So you need to have the best relationships that you can. At least you need to be surrounded the best people that you can hire. This is the best thing from my point of view. I don't know what you think about that, but it's pretty key thing, no? Right?
Great. Thank you. Before asking for a big round of applause for our panelists, as we're coming to the end of the 40 minutes allocated to us, and we want to be punctual, I would like to tell the panelists and everyone in the audience that our magazine, Security Lata, is at your disposal at any time. It is crucial to become not only international, but in my experience, at least in Latin America, is that the Spanish brand in Latin America is extremely powerful when it comes to cybersecurity. We are incredibly prestigious there, and that is with a shadow of a doubt, thanks to professionals like you. There are very few of you, but you're being very bold, and you have a great professionalism. I would like to congratulate you, because those of us who have traveled abroad or have been traveling abroad for only 5 years, well, I want to thank you on behalf of all of us, because whenever they hear and they listen to us, knowing that we're Spaniards, they really value our services and our prestige, and that's thanks to you. Thank you very much.